All right. Good?
Yeah, okay. Cool. Thank you, David, for taking the time. I just want to make sure you're comfortable being recorded, and if there's anything you're not comfortable with, of course,
Yeah,
let us
absolutely.
know.
It's the first time,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm good with it.
Cool. Awesome.
So, I just turned 37. Born and raised in Huntington Beach, Southern California. I had a somewhat of a troubled 20s. Lived and learned a lot in my 20s, and lost a lot of good years because of that. But it's what helped me, kind of grow up pretty quickly and get to where I'm at now. I I would say since 2014 was the last time, and last time for good I was ever in any kind of trouble or anything. And I finally got it together and grew up, and that's when I got like into the industry that I'm in right now. I've been in the auto and more recently home warranty business for about 12 years now. But 2014 was when I really got into it full time, and that kind of set me off as far as having a career and being able to actually make a living from a job. And it was possible. I didn't
Yeah.
I never went to college. um, Having somewhat of a checkered past, didn't necessarily have a lot of opportunities that other people have.
Sure.
But I always made sure that I was good. I for a while I didn't have a car, and I woke up at 4:30 every morning and took 3 buses from Garden Grove to Irvine, and to get there by 7 in the morning. And same thing going home. Wouldn't get home till 7 o'clock at night. I did that for like 9 months. Finally saved up a little bit so I was able to buy a little car. And so I did that for several years. And there was several good years of kind of bouncing different companies in the industry that I was in before I finally landed somewhere that I really felt like I was at home. Like I said, I put 4 good years in there, and basically the company, it was unbeknownst to us at the time, especially me, um, was losing a bunch of money. So they had brought in some outside person to come in there and try to help fix the books or whatever. Um, Long story short, on a Friday after work, after we actually, our office broke our record for our biggest sales week, like everything in my mind was good. I got brought into the office and got fired. And
Wow.
it was like one of those things where it was like so like far out of left field and so unexpected that like it really like shook me. Like um, probably more than a lot of things that I've experienced in my life, and I've experienced quite a bit. But that, getting fired from that job, it was definitely rough. So then again, this was June 2019. Um, I was so like kind of hurt by the whole thing that I told myself I'll never go back in to the warranty business. I If they can fire me, for especially how good of a job I've been doing, like they'll fire anybody. Like nobody
Yeah.
has any love for anybody. This is just
Did they say why it happened? Or
So they wouldn't tell me exactly why. At first, I did come to find out years later, um, and I was going to get to it when I eventually did go back into the industry. The guy that I went to work for, he was actually with the company at the time that it happened. He was the general manager. He was the one that kind of laid it down for me and told me that this person told him, if you guys don't cut $200,000 worth of expenses, you're going to have to close your doors.
wow.
So, I had just spent a couple of months negotiating a salary. It was me and another guy were basically co-managing the place. There was over 100 employees. I took pride in it. I was there every day on time, and I led like the kind of pump up every morning with the sales team, and same thing after lunch every day. And I took a lot of pride in the you know being a part of something that was bigger than myself. And
Yeah.
um, and I know I had a positive impact on a lot of people there. Um, You know, because when you have that many people that, you know, work with you, work for you, whatever, you're going to run into a lot of different, you know, personalities and situations and, you know, problems. And it just, you know, it was, I, I it felt good being able to, you know, um, give people a place where they can know they can come to work and not have to stress on anything at work. And, you know, so like I said, when it happened, when I got let go, fired, however you want to call it, it was definitely, um, it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
So, um, not long after that, purely coincidental, I was at home and I was up in my garage, trying to get some stuff out of the rafters up in the garage, and I ended up like falling off a step ladder and twisting my ankle, and I ended up going on disability. For ended up being a whole year, but at first it was only for a few months. And it just so happened, you know, the amount of money that I've been making, that what I was able to qualify for on disability was enough to not have to work for a while.
Yeah.
And so I took some time off work, um, and that was like right when the pandemic happened, like March 2020. You know, right in the middle of that. So right when I was kind of like starting to get back into like, you know, get my work juices flowing again, everything got shut down.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at that point, I kind of jumped on the, you know, unemployment wagon with everybody else, and you know, I rode that as far as it went. And you know, by this point, from the whole time I was on disability and, you know, being on unemployment, you know, we're getting up to, you know, a couple of years that it's been since I worked, and it's weird looking back on it. It was almost like a fantasy world. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's kind of hard to explain, but when you have, you know, money that's provided to you for doing nothing every week, and it's just there, and you know, it was definitely a weird time in my life. You know, the other thing is a woman who I had been with kind of on and off for about 6 years. We actually, you know, kind of, I guess, rekindled whatever we had and got a lot closer during that time as well. Spent a lot of time together during that time. And so that kind of leads me up to the next part. She had some health problems, and she hid them from myself and her family and everybody else. You know, she played it off like everything was cool, but they weren't. And yeah, so she passed away June 21st, 2021. So that was like the second, um, kind of like pretty eventful thing that happened in my life in a, you know, short couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, getting fired like I did kind of, you know, kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth about a lot of things, for I was bitter for a long time. You know, and then when that happened, I was, you know, of course mad that she didn't, you know, tell me. And but then again, obviously, you know, devastated that she was gone. And so this is, you know, we're in, you know, like June 2021, summer 2021 at this point. I mean, around for another 6 months or so after that, I kind of just was floating off the money I had saved up and just kind of just living in the, just like I said, this depressed kind of just fantasy world. And I don't really know how to explain it. Like, I just, you know, I spent a lot of time at home by myself, and you know, it definitely wasn't healthy, but you know, it was just kind of where I found myself at that time.
Yeah.
So fast forward to right around the beginning of 2022, started running out of money. You know, some time has passed since, you know, Kelly died. Her name was Kelly, by the way. And I just kind of started snapping out of my funk a little bit, and I was like, all right, it's time to get back to work. At this time, I didn't have a car. You know, luckily I have two wonderful parents that are local. I was able to pick up the phone and make one phone call and have a job ready to go for me the next day.
Wow.
Um,
Were you?
Was this with your parents or was it with?
so it was from a colleague that I had worked with prior in the industry. As a matter of fact, the day I got fired, she got fired as well the day from that same company.
Weird.
So she was the customer service manager, and I was the sales rep manager, and we had both got fired on the same day. So, and we were tight. We had worked together for 3-4 years at that point. So, I reached out to her. Actually, I take that back. I went on Craigslist, and I was looking through some job ads, and I seen this ad, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And I get down to the contact info, and I see her name, Gabby, and her phone number, and I recognize it right away. And so that's why I reached out to her, and I texted her, and I said, hey, I just seen your ad on Craigslist. She's like, I got a desk for you when you're ready to start. And I was like, you know what, might as well get after it. So at this point, I was living in downtown Huntington, and the office was in Santa Ana. So I had an issue of kind of getting to and from work. Like I said, luckily my parents stepped up big time and helped me out. My dad, he gave me a ride to work every day, and then my mom picked me up every day and gave me a ride home.
Wow.
This went on for about 6 weeks, 2 months or so.
Were you living with your parents at this time, or got your own place?
So where I lived at, the house was originally my grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm.
When they passed on, and the house got basically left to my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
It was a studio in the back, so it was super private. Like, even though I lived at somebody else's place and I rented, it was like very, very private. And I had my own entrance. I had, I hardly ever saw them. It was a completely separate, building on the property. So that's where I had been at for like 6 years. And so, my living situation was good, but it was like I needed to get back to work. It had been a while since I had paid him rent, and he was cool for about it, but it was like it was time. So for a couple months, my folks helped me out with the ride to and from work, and during that time, I literally gave my dad every penny I made just to hold for me and save up so I can get a car. And I'm glad I did it, because if not, I don't, who knows? I don't know if I would have got it done as quickly, but they definitely helped me out, especially being that he was taking me every single day, and wasn't exactly close either. So I know it was a lot. So flash forward a couple months, and I was able to put some money together and got a couple pay stubs, and was able to find a spot that financed me a car, and now I got a car.
Nice.
And so this was again, kind of early 2022 at this point. So I ended up working there all the way till October-ish, and there was no like specific like crazy event that led me to leave. Just didn't, wasn't working out like it was in the beginning, and I was kind of wanting to like switch over into like a different part of my industry. I've been doing sales in the like auto side of it for so long. This new home warranty thing was starting to like kind of pick up steam in the industry, and I've been hearing a lot of good things about it. So I was kind of starting to want to switch over to that. So this was last November. I started with the company I'm at right now, Home Warranty Services USA. It's a big company. And I started over there in sales, and it was kind of up and down at first. And they're a pretty cutthroat company though, and they got pretty high sales quotas. And if you don't cut it out, you don't last very long. But they could tell, even though I had a couple of rough weeks, they could tell that I knew what I was doing, and there was definitely a value that I could bring to the company. And luckily, one of the managers there, he was a great guy. He recognized that I might do well in customer service. Something that I had never done in the warranty business in my life. I've always been on the sales end. The customer service is completely different. It's people that have already bought a policy, and they're either wanting to cancel, or they have claim problems, or it's just a completely different way about going with the business. So obviously I knew the business, so that definitely helped, the transition. But for me, it was good because I was able to, get a salary that was decent enough for me to keep my head above water and not have to stress about hitting quota and, my sales percentage. If I had a bad week, it was like I had, I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. I was able to, kind of just catch my breath and I ended up being really good at it. And so I've been doing that since January, and I've recently kind of made my way up. We had one manager that was basically covering customer service for auto and home, and he was spread pretty thin. So I just kind of naturally, you know, have always been one that, you know, kind of figures things out pretty quickly. I'm a really good problem solver. Like, and people naturally kind of gravitate to me if they have questions, and it kind of just like organically, like, um, happened to where I kind of was like an assistant manager type thing, and it's been really cool. It's I'm with the company now that I know appreciates me. I don't think there's going to be any issues getting fired or anything like that. So everything's been good, as far as that's concerned. Now I'm not making as much as I was in sales. That is true, but it is more stable. So as far as the living situation now, I told you I've been renting a room in that studio at my cousin's place for 7 years or so, and it was just time for me to move. He's got a couple kids, and he's a single dad. One of the kids, her grandpa, I think, was needing a place, and for him it kind of worked out because he's able to help with the kids, and so there was no bad blood or anything like that. It was just kind of time for me to go. Unfortunately, it happened pretty quick. And
this was January?
no. So this was like less than a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So this just happened. I basically had about 12 days notice.
No shit.
And the place I'd been there for a long time. So I mean, I had some pretty deep roots in it. Like, and just the task of cleaning out that place, which I did by myself over a week or two period, was really a task.
You had to get rid of everything?
I mean, there was just so much that, needed to be thrown out. And like I said, I'd been there a long time. And again, I'd spent several years kind of, hibernating in there. And it was a lot to get it cleaned out. And for me, it was tough because I kind of grown so used to, having that security of that place and knowing that, like, regardless of what's going on, no matter how tough things get, I always have my fortress of solitude, I always call it. Like, I always had my place where I knew I'd be safe. So giving that up was really tough. And again, this just happened. I've been looking as far as trying to find something new. Working full time and makes it a little difficult. That was how I came across, your guys' ad. And the thing that really jumped out to me, was the part where it said, don't, like, try this out instead of sleeping in your car.
Yeah.
And that kind of really, hit me because, I've been staying in my car a lot,
Yeah.
Nobody knows. My parents don't know. My colleagues at work don't know. Not something I'm necessarily proud of. Basically what I've been doing is kind of paying for a room a few nights a week, and then, a few nights kind of toughing it out in the car.
Yeah.
While I hopefully find something more permanent.
It's also so damn expensive. I feel like those nightly...
How much is like a nightly
So
room?
the cheapest place I found on a weekly rate was $450 a week. Anything besides
Wow.
that, it's anywhere from $80 to $100 a night.
That's insane.
And so, I mean, I bring in a little over $700 a week, but if $450 of that's going to go to a room every single week, there's just no way.
After tax, it's like nothing left over.
Exactly.
So with finding like an apartment space, is the difficulty like getting enough for a down payment? And
So no, well, not necessarily. If I find something, I kind of mentioned I have great parents. My dad has done a lot for me, although I would never, I hate asking him for help, but there's been times where I have had to. Um, he's not, wealthy by any means, but um, that's not too much of my concern. Nowadays these people want to do credit checks and they want to, do background checks. And even though it's been a long time since I've had, any kind of, trouble in my life, it's still, it's not, it doesn't make it easier,
Yeah.
and just the task of doing it, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'll go on Craigslist and I'll reach out to a few places and, maybe hear back from one of them. And, it's a lot, it's hard to find a place where like, there's always going to be pros and cons, you know, close proximity to my work, cost, um, if it's a shared house, if it's a private room, private bathroom, you know what I mean? Like, finding something that has enough, like, cons that, or enough pros to where, I'm, want to pull the trigger is kind of, tough to the point where it's, easier to, sleep in my car a few nights a week. Like,
Yeah.
But that hasn't been easy. I feel like it's taken a toll on me. And, um, I do a pretty good job of kind of, hiding it. Um, I kind of stay close to a Walmart in Santa Ana, and luckily I have a place to be at early in the morning. So, I wake up early and, I'll go to use the restroom there and kind of wash up and change into some clean clothes and hop on the freeway and go to work, be there by 7. That's a blessing that I actually have something to go do.
Yeah.
Mental health.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and just the sense of purpose, and because the weekdays aren't too bad when it comes to staying in the car, but the weekends has been like is the worst.
I can see that because it's like there's not much to do, right?
There's nothing to do, and like it's like, where do I go where I can, like, hang out and not be inconspicuous, and now it's getting hot out, and like find somewhere where there's some shade, and like, it's tough. Like I said, at nighttime on the weekdays, it's although it's not ideal, it's not the worst situation, but on the weekends it's been tough. So I've been basically what I've been trying to do is pay for a room like on Friday and Saturday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the rest of the week I've been toughing it out in the car. Um, but yeah, this is the first time I've ever been in a situation where I didn't have a comfortable, safe place to call home. This before the 6 years that I stayed at that studio, I lived with a couple that I actually known all the way back from high school. Really good friends. We lived in a couple different 3-bedroom apartments together for a long time. They got married. The kids started coming, and before that first kid came, it was like, all right, it's time to move on from that.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of good years of comfortable, safe living, and followed up with the studio for 6 years, and like I said, it's the first time in a long time that um, I've had that sense of like having nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not easy. I'm grateful that that things aren't a lot worse, because they could be. I'm grateful that I have a job, and I can at least feed myself and put gas in my car, and get a drink from Starbucks, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but it's definitely something new that I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Does the car give you any sense of like, this is my safe place? Like, do you feel safe with that, or no?
Um, yes and no. I mean, like with my car, um, my tags are like 6 months expired. That's something else I got to get taken care of. That is something that I'm constantly worried about. I've gotten pulled over a couple times on it, and luckily, um, the officers have been really cool about it. Like my worst nightmare is, to get pulled over and have my car impounded or something like that. I don't even know what I would do in that kind of a situation, to be completely honest. I'd probably move out of state, to be honest. I got some friends that I worked with for a long time that ended up moving to the East Coast. They live in South Carolina, and they got their warranty shop out there that they do. And they've always told me if I ever wanted to come, I could, but that's always been like, man, that would only be if things got like really, really bad.
Yeah.
But try not to think about that. But as far as like feeling safe, I mean, yeah, I'm not like worried about like somebody trying to like break into my car or anything like that. I have a pretty cool spot that I park at night. And I mean, I'm out of there by 5:45 in the morning, so like, it's not like people are seeing me just sitting there sleeping in my car or whatever. Like I try to be inconspicuous. I don't leave trash. I don't, pee on the sidewalk or anything like that. You know what I mean? I try to, be as respectful and inconspicuous as I can be. But there is always that, kind of sense in the back of my head that, either a neighbor or a cop or whatever is gonna, come banging on my window in the middle of the night. It used to be that you can actually, Walmart was a place that actually like welcomed people to like spend the night in their parking
like
lots.
RVs and
Exactly, and I don't know when it changed, but that's not the case anymore. I've gotten rolled out of a couple different Walmarts. The only one that has never given me a problem is the one in the one in Carson, off the 405 in Carson. That's the only one that I've been able to park there overnight and haven't had somebody give me a hard time. The one in Westminster on Beach Boulevard and the one in Santa Ana on Harbor, both of those ones, I've had security guards come and kick me out at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not bothering anybody. I'm I'm just trying to get a couple hours sleep before I go to work in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, but
is there a lot of cars that are parked kind of do the same thing?
I think most of them are like overnight employees. Because there's actually a lot of people that are actually in there overnight. I didn't realize how many people worked at Walmart overnight until I kind of started camping out there. But like the one in Long Beach, there's a lot of people there. You could tell that are staying in their cars. I don't know if it's because it's LA County over there. That's different. I'm guessing that's probably the case. Orange County obviously is a little more strict about it. I know certain cities have ordinances against sleeping in your car. I'm not super up to date on what all those are, but the place that I pretty much stay at the most time is in Fountain Valley, and it's in a pretty cool, mellow spot that's kind of like in like the back of the neighborhood, like parked up against like a wall, not a bunch of houses. So it's like, I haven't had any problems there yet.
It's so interesting to me how you have to seem like you're not doing something wrong. You're just in your car.
Yeah.
It's that must be such a strange feeling as a person to feel like you need to hide yourself. Like you're just in your car. You're not doing anything.
That's a really good point because there's a certain level of embarrassment that comes to staying in my car. But like you said, like I'm not doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get some shut eye before I have to go to work in the morning and not be bothered. And that's definitely it's a good point. I guess it kind of comes with the territory, though. I've had a buddy of mine that's kind of let me come crash a couple nights, on the couch. But I hate the feeling of like overstaying my welcome and being a burden on somebody. even though they say I'm not, it's like, you know, I'm a grown man, and and any type of staying at somebody's house on their couch is going to be a an inconvenience, whether they're cool about it or not. It just for me, it's hard to you know put myself in that situation to where I have to do that, and then but then again, staying in my car is not good for me. You know what I mean? Sleeping in my driver's seat, like
Circulation.
yeah, my feet, my feet get like swollen, and like I just know it's not good, you know. So there's definitely got to be at least a few nights here or there where I can, lay down, put my feet up, and
Yeah, and that's kind of where we, or at least where we're kind of thinking about our kind of business plan in general. I mean, to me, it's mind blowing because back in the '70s, it was no matter where you worked, you could pay a full month's worth of rent or mortgage with like 1 week worth of work,
right.
And now it's got to a point where it's like even working full time, it's like anybody can barely pay
Yeah.
anything. It's fucking insane.
Yeah,
And then you have all these offices that are not even being used.
Completely empty.
And to me, it's like a spit in the face to Americans, where it's like there's this air-conditioned space, hundreds of thousands of feet, not even being used, and that's kind of where we thought of what we want to do with we call it teapots, and
right.
the inspiration was from Japanese cafes
Right.
where they're just 24/7.
Yeah,
You can go in, you can work, you can rest. It's just a private space. It'll just be a nice like you can lock the door. It's just like a
Like we're
place
not
to just
claiming
go.
to be an apartment space.
Right.
Like we can't provide showers
Right.
maybe or whatever. But it seems like from what you just keep saying, it's like you just want somewhere that it's where you can go at the end of the day
and be safe.
and just be safe
Yeah.
in a closed environment.
And that's funny you mentioned that with the office buildings, like the complex I work in. 80% of the office buildings are completely empty.
Yeah, it's empty.
And that's a. I mean, I'm glad you thought of something like that, man. Like that definitely opens up a lot of possibilities to people like me, and I know there's more people like me that are out there.
Yeah.
There's people that have it off worse than I do. Um, even though things aren't ideal, like I'm always like very grateful that that they're not, a lot worse.
Yeah. No, for sure. And our goal is to have this as like an introduction product where people, it's like I call it like transitionary kind of place to stay, and then
Like just to get back on your feet, to have some
way.
time to figure out whatever you need to figure out.
Right.
yeah, and it's like charging the entire full month's worth of rent for like what somebody should be able to make in like a week or something.
Yeah.
Or it's like, hey, it's like $300, $350, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what I think. I saw $300. Like if I was able to pay $300 and not have to worry about where I'm gonna sleep for a month, that gives me a whole month that I could, not have to worry about it and figure something out. And, because I got some things working at work where like they were doing a thing where they were offering a referral bonus if you referred an employee that came and lasted 30 days. They were offering a bonus. I got a guy who's getting close to his 30 days, and so I'm looking forward to that when it comes through, and just trying to time everything, and I know it'll all work out eventually, and I just I just try to stay as positive as possible and kind of just dive into my work, and besides that, I stay late, get there early because really I volunteer to work on Saturdays. You know what I mean? Like because otherwise I'm just gonna be chilling somewhere, and like I said, at the weekends I just it's the worst.
Yeah.
But
They always say the worst thing for a man in general is just like free time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
But no, this was an impressive.
I was just gonna say your perspective is what's distinguishing you from like people who have it so much worse. I think that's what's keeping you out of that situation. But I mean, I think hearing it from you gives us so much perspective too on like what people genuinely need. Because even for us, I mean, we've had our fair share of eviction notices, And we've thought about it too, of like, well, what would be next step? Like, we just need somewhere to know that we can go at the end of the day.
Right.
And so I think that gives us like a lot of perspective in what kind of space we need to create for people too. Like, we would like to create a space too that it's not shared, it's private for you, but also there are other people there that are in similar situations. And so we would like, for example, like everyone to take a drug test before coming into our spaces, just so you have that peace of mind that there isn't someone doing, drugs next to you or bringing in something that shouldn't be in there. So like, these are little things we're trying to think of, and so it's helpful to get like your feedback to see like, what do you actually want in the situation, and just make it as comfortable as possible for everybody.
I think that's super important because I could see if that wasn't something done, like being taken advantage of by people that are only in that situation because they choose to be, versus because they don't have a choice,
right?
But yeah, that I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it helps.
No, well, perfect. Thank you for taking the time and like that as well. And we'll definitely get this out to the community. We'll start like a GoFundMe, and we'll definitely stay in touch about the pods and everything like that as well.
For sure. Yeah. What social media platform are you guys on usually?
Yeah, we have TikTok, we have Twitter, and we have YouTube. So it's kind of across those three.
Right on.
Everybody's a little different on each one.
Yeah.
The YouTube people are gonna be more like invested in like getting to know people. And everyone's a little bit different. But what's nice is just like we want people to be invested in like your story as well, and that the more they like you, the more they want to support you as well. And you have a great story.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys giving me a platform to share my story. I mean, when you told me about that, I was like kind of like blown away. Like, I was like, he said he wants to do an interview and he's got all these followers. I'm like, what? Like that's not what I was expecting at all. But it was, I don't know, I feel like it was almost like a godsend, to be honest. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to see where this goes, what happens.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.